It's a numbers game. That's right. It's a game of numbers. Most of us have heard of the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, as it's technically called, which states that 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. But there's also an adaptation of that called the 20-70-10 rule. And I like that one because, quite honestly, it's more real. It's more truthful and honest. Because that rule says 20% of the people are doing the majority of the work. Those are your stars. Then there's 70% of people that are sort of just going along the motion, doing their job most of the time, not excelling, not exceeding, requirements. And then there's 10% of the people that, let's be real, are just dead weight. They're being carried by the 70 or the 20. And one of the things that's interesting is these principles don't just apply to people or human resource. So let's take Ford, for example. Ford typically specializes in their trucks. If you go to construction sites, you see a lot of the Ford F-150s, F-250s, and so forth. But then Ford also does well in the other product lines. Some of the small class, like the new Ford Escape, and some of the other vehicles that are doing very well. But think about some of the vehicles that they no longer offer, like a Contour or some of those other Tempo from back in the day. Those were that 10%. They were doing okay, but they weren't carrying their weight, so they had to go. So it's not just about people. It also deals with products. So my business persons, take a look at your product offerings. You will realize that there's a top echelon of products and services that you offer. That's bringing in the majority of your revenue. But then you want to look at that other 80% and see what's in that 70 and can stay and it can bring in revenue, but also what's in that 10 dead weight that has to go. But let's get back to people and talking about that 70 and that 10. Because the 20 we know. That's your upper echelon. We really want to focus on that 70 and that 10. So my first point is this. Your performance speaks for itself. So whether you fall in that upper echelon, whether you're in that middle level, or whether you're in that bottom rung, and you got to get your weight up, you got to get your skills up, your performance will dictate that. How well you perform in sales, in the classroom, on the field, wherever you are, it'll show in those numbers, and it'll be reflected. Now, last week I talked about being open and honest. A lot of times we don't want to hear the honest truth. But let's be real. That salesperson that's making all the calls, that's making the follow-up calls, that's going out there knocking on doors, he's the one that's in that 20%. The one that's just showing up, either in that 70 or maybe even that 10%, and not doing as well. So our performance will show where we are. The second thing is, and this is very important, you have to challenge yourself to be at your very best. Your performance is going to show where you are. So if you're in the top 20, keep up the good work. Keep working harder. Challenge yourself to meet new goals, meet new personal goals and development items. If you're in that 70, work harder to get your skills up, to get your numbers up, to get in that 20. And if you're in that 10, let's be honest, either you got to find another line of business or you got to work very hard and stop just going through the motions. Stop allowing the others to carry you if you really want to be successful. Sad thing is that many people are okay with just being in the 10. Just going along for the ride, allowing other people to do the work, get the accolades, and be more successful than they are. But you have to be honest. Take pride in what you do. Challenge yourself to be at your very best. And then lastly, my last point is take no days off. No days off. So if you're in that top echelon, you're in that top 20, then you want to keep working. Because guess what? There are some people that may be in that 70 that are gunning for you. Or others that are in that 20 that are gunning for you. So you can't afford or have the luxury to take a day off, to get lax. You got to continue to strive to be at your very best. Continue to work hard and press forward. And if you're in that 70, you got to push harder so you can get to that 20. Study more. Work harder. Do the things that are required to be at the top of the line, to be at the very best, the pinnacle in your industry. And then lastly, if you're in that 10, you obviously are probably used to taking days off. But if you're in that 10, you got to assess where you are. Identify, is this even the proper place for you? Sometimes we break things down and we look at life and say, it's not just about numbers, there are other areas. But let's be honest, it really is about numbers. And that 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, has been true for many, many years. That 20-70-10 is also true. And if you can honestly take a look in the mirror and assess where you are today, you'll recognize where you need to work harder to grow, to be more successful, and to be at your very best. We always shoot for that 20. We always shoot to be at the very top. So whether it's academics, athletics, business, ministry, wherever you are, strive to be at the very top. Let your performance dictate where you are. Challenge yourself to be better, and take no days off.
That I can have this moment to life.